Welcome back. Good morning. And we're going to look at Psalm 5 today. So let's go ahead and read it and then we'll talk about it. For the director of music, for pipes, a psalm of David. Listen to my words, O Lord. Consider my lament. Hear my cry for help, my King and my God, for to you I pray. In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning I lay my request before you and wait expectantly. For you are not a God who is pleased with wickedness. With you, evil people are not welcome. The arrogant cannot stand in your presence. You hate all who do wrong. You destroy those who tell lies. The bloodthirsty and deceitful you, Lord, detest. But I, by your great love, can come into your house. In reverence, I bow down toward your holy temple. Lead me, Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before me. Not a word from their mouth can be trusted. Their heart is filled with malice. Their throat is an open grave. With their tongues they tell lies. Declare them guilty, O God. Let their intrigue be their downfall. Banish them for their many sins, for they have rebelled against you. But let all who take refuge in you be glad. Let them ever sing for joy. Spread your protection over them, that those who love your name may rejoice in you. We know it's written by David because it says that in the title. We don't know anything else. It sounds like he's worried about people who are slandering him and speaking ill of him and telling lies, and that happens a lot. So it could be at many points in David's life before he was a king or when he was a king. But here's what stands out to me, is something called parallelism. So this is a poem. This is a Hebrew poem. In English, when we have a poem, one of the ways we know it's a poem, not always, but is that it rhymes. And we rhyme words by taking the ending of each word and they sound the same. Roses are red, violets are blue. I don't know the rest of this poem and neither do you. So you and blue in that case rhyme. And that's how we know it's rhyming, and we do that in poetry in particular. But the Hebrews don't rhyme by matching the ends of the words, the sounds at the end of words. They rhyme with something called parallelism. They actually rhyme meanings. They'll say the same meaning in different ways more than once, in the same way that we make the sound in different ways more than once. They say the same meaning more than once, and that emphasizes it, and that's part of the poetry, is the parallelism. Sometimes this parallelism is they say the same thing twice, and sometimes it's like a contrast. They'll say one thing and then say in the same way and say the opposite. We see both in this poem in a really interesting way. So to start with, the first place we see it, the parallelism where they're the same, is at the beginning. He says, listen to my words, Lord, consider my lament. So he's saying, listen to me, and then he's saying, consider my cry. Not only listen to me, but it's a cry I want you to listen to. And who's supposed to listen? God. Specifically, he's not just lamenting to anybody. He wants God to hear him. And then the second verse says this, hear my cry for help. That's the same phrase over again. Listen to my words, consider my lament. Here is listen to my words, and consider my lament is my cry for help. And then he says, my King and my God, for to you I pray. So he's emphasizing again that his prayer is to God. It's not just to anybody. And so he's saying, hear my prayer. It's one of lament, and I'm praying it to you. And so that's kind of an interesting parallel. Then he goes on and he says, in the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning, I lay my request before you and wait expectantly. This, I think, is again another parallel. I lay my request before you is my voice. And here is I wait expectantly. Because you hear, I wait expectantly. So I think he's saying parallel. He's emphasizing I call out to you in my anguish and you alone. And then I know that you alone hear me and I wait for you alone in my anguish. So that's a parallelism that sets up the point of this lament today. But here's where it gets really interesting. After that, he talks a lot about the wicked and how God does not hear the wicked. God can't detest the wicked. He doesn't like the wicked. It's really strong. And then he talks about how God listens to him. And if he were paralleling these in the same way that he did at the beginning, you would expect that what he would say is, you hate all who do wrong. You destroy those who tell lies. The bloodthirsty and deceitful you, Lord, detest. But I, because of my great faithfulness, can come into your house. You'd expect him to say something like that. But he doesn't say that. He says, but I, by your great love, can come into your house. So the parallel is those who can't come into the Lord's house and those who do, but it's not the wicked versus the righteous. It's the recognition that David can come into God's house because of God's love. And the only difference really here is that David is entering in the house. He makes this even stronger. Again, he keeps going. He talks about how they're deceitful and they're lying. And then he says, but let all who take refuge in you be glad. He doesn't say, let all who do the right things be glad. Let all who are righteous be glad. He says, let all who take refuge in you be glad. Let them ever sing for joy. Spread your protection over them, that those who love your name may rejoice in you. The real difference between the wicked and the righteous in this passage, he doesn't even use the word righteous here to speak of himself, but the real difference between the wicked and the righteous here is that some never acknowledge God. They don't seek refuge in him. And the only reason that God gives refuge to the other group is because they seek refuge in him. Because of God's great love, they can seek him. So I love that. I love the fact that that parallelism emphasizes that David isn't declaring his own righteousness and that God sees him because of his righteousness, but it's declaring that God sees him and hears him because of his great love. And that's what it all comes out to. Hear my cry, O Lord. I call only to you because you have a great love for me, and I won't find my answers anywhere else. And that's the difference between him and the bloodthirsty and the deceitful and the wicked. So, questions for you to ponder. Is there anything in your life which causes you to run from God? Anything that you are ashamed of or holding on to, or just don't trust in God's great love? Think you have to get yourself together before you can enter his temple? What is that? How can you let that go? See, I think that anytime you turn back to God, he's never frowning. He's always smiling because he just loves seeing you turn back to him. So every time you turn to him, he'll be looking at you with a smile and open arms. What's holding you from doing that? What keeps you from running to God right now? And the second question is, what stands out to you in Psalm 5 today? All right, I'll see you tomorrow morning.